This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Our goal with our videos is to empower you to be able to do the repairs on your own and save a whole lot of money and also get that great feeling of having fixed it by yourself. Today we have a gas oven that won't heat, and this is one of my favorite repairs. It's pretty easy to do. We'll just make sure it's unplugged. We're going to open the door, pull out these grates, and then we're going to remove the bottom panel. And pretty easy to do. There's usually two standard head screws in the back that you have to undo. Sometimes you can just pull them off by twisting with your hand, but usually you need a standard head screwdriver. And you spin those off. They're about 1 inch long. And then that's going to allow you to lift up the back of the bottom panel. When you get it up to about 45 degrees, you can then get the front lip of that panel to release from the front, and you can pull that panel right out. And sometimes the igniter will be right underneath that. Other times there's a deflector that kind of deflects the heat, and you have to remove that too, which is pretty easy to do. So here's the heat deflector. That's this kind of rusted looking thing. There's 2 screws holding it on here, or I'm sorry, 3 screws. These are 1/4 inch screws, and we're going to use our 1/4 inch driver and just zip those out, and we'll grab the heat deflector and just pull it straight out toward us. And it's kind of held in by 2 slots in the back, but just 3 screws in the front to get it loose. Pull that off. And we have access to the venturi tube, the burner tube, and the igniter. We're using 1/4 inch driver to get those 2 screws off of the igniter. And I'm using a little angle tool made by DeWalt, which makes it really easy to get into these tight corners, but you can use a small ratchet, would work. You just got to undo those 2 screws. The old igniter will come right off, and then we're going to pull on the wires a little bit to expose them, and we're going to cut those wires and strip them back. I'm going to take about a 1/4 inch of insulation off of the wires, and then we're going to use a Electrolux igniter kit that works for almost all ovens, and it's very easy to install. You're just going to pull back the insulation by about a 1/4 inch on the wires coming from the oven, and then there's 2 wires that come with the new igniter, and you can hook either one of the igniter wires up with either one of the oven wires. There's no polarity issue. So it's pretty easy to do. They hook together with a little porcelain wire tie. Here's the kit that you can get. These are about probably 20 bucks from Amazon. Here's the part number. It's Electrolux, kind of a universal igniter. These are the 2 wires, and they're already stripped when you get them out of the box. We're going to hook one of those up to one of the wires from the oven. We're going to pinch them together and then use the ceramic wire nut, and we're going to twist it on righty-tighty, as tight as it'll go. And these are heat proof, so they won't melt. They're made out of a ceramic. We'll do that for the other wire, and that's going to be bringing power to the new igniter. These igniters typically last about 4 or 5 years, and then they stop doing a good job igniting. So the oven doesn't heat very well. Sometimes it won't heat at all. Sometimes it'll have a delayed ignition, almost like a small explosion will go off. These are all signs of an igniter that's on its way out. So I'm going to push these wires back down into the firewall and get them out of the way. I want to get all this wire pushed back where it's not going to be exposed to very much heat. And then really all we have to do is put it back together. Once we get the wires pushed in there, we'll get the new igniter in position, and we're going to add those 2 1/4 inch screws to hold it. And then we'll test it. We'll plug it back in. We'll ask for bake, and we'll make sure that it ignites before we put the panels back on. So we're just going to put these screws back in, hand tight, and then you can use a little ratchet to tighten them up. So these are called glow igniters. It takes about 30 seconds for them to heat up to a point where they're almost white hot, and then the safety valve lets gas flow in, and then the gas ignites right away. But when they get weaker, they don't glow bright enough to really cause a good ignition, or the ignition takes way too long, maybe 4 or 5 minutes before it ignites. So we get that nice and tight. So now we're going to press bake. We're going to ask for 350, press start, and then we're just going to stare at it for a little bit. It should be about 30 seconds. It'll get brighter and brighter, and then it'll finally ignite. You should get a nice blue flame with little yellow tinges at the end. And if we have a good flame, then we know it's okay to we'll turn it back off and we'll put the panels back on. This is a really fun, quick, easy repair. I always enjoy when I get a call for someone who needs a gas oven igniter, because it's so fast and easy to do. So I just turned it back off. It's going to take a couple seconds for it to really stop the flame. And once the flame stops, you can put the heat deflector back in. It fits into some slots in the back. And then just let it set down, and you add the 3/4 inch screws back. Get those tight. I've seen these same exact igniters, these Electrolux General type ones that are about 20 bucks. I've seen the exact same part sold for $100. So make sure you're not getting ripped off. The Electrolux is a good brand. We're going to slide that back in front, let it set down in the back, and we'll add those 2 screws that hold the bottom panel back into position. Some gas igniters have a glow igniter that is not rectangular, but it's more round. Typically that's a GE gas oven, and the procedure is really similar, but you don't want to intermix those. So if yours had a round igniter, you want to replace it with a round igniter. If it had a rectangular one, you want to replace it with a rectangular one. And usually if you look at your model number and look under igniter, it'll give you a reference for the proper part. But probably 85% of all gas ovens use that Electrolux rectangular one that's really cheap. You can get from Amazon. That goes for Wolf and Viking, Bosch, Thermador. So most of these brands are basically using the same type of igniter. So we put these grates back in. And we'll close it up and give it a test, and we are all set. So this got this oven working great again, had a really fast ignition. I hope that works for you, and please subscribe when you get a chance. We'll send you a lot more home repair videos. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.